Hello there, my friends. My name is Jack Descartes, and this is Sentinel Circle. It's good to have you here today. Thank you. So, I'm going to. This is actually a re-recording of a video that I did not release, simply because I was very unhappy with it. The point of this video is, I noticed that when it comes to older guys, my father was kind of guilty of it. I shouldn't say guilty, it's more he was never prepared for it. And I think probably the biggest thing that he did was admit to me that he was not prepared, and that was for being a teacher, being an example. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is older individuals, they do, whether they like it or not, have a responsibility to guide the youth. I know, like, in our current modern how do you want to say, the hyper-individualist society that we live in today, we're very quick to isolate ourselves. You know, we don't want to be involved with anyone or anything. And to be fair, that's kind of a luxury of the modern era. Before, it was very counterintuitive to be on your own. You kind of had to have a village, a group of people to survive. And fortunately today, you can isolate yourself and not really have to deal with that. But that being stated, and I know certain people out there don't like it when you start with the word but, so I'll say however. That being stated, I think that's very irresponsible. And like I said, I know a lot of us are guilty. Myself, I'm guilty of it too. But the problem is when we, as older individuals, we don't pass down our wisdom, our guidance, that kind of stuff. We're kind of in the situation now in society where we're kind of suffering from those pitfalls. You know, at least in my personal life, I am a second generation broken home. My father grew up in a broken home as well. And I know that, like, there's a lot of people out there that they've come from broken homes, and it's just a pattern of broken homes. And unfortunately, they're mostly mother-dominated homes, which raising a male in a mother-dominated home has been shown time and again that it doesn't work well. And you know, growing up, when I was living with my mother wanted to put me into a program called Big Brothers Big Sisters, just for that reason. You know, she felt that because I was the oldest sibling in the house at the time, she felt that it was important for me to have someone I can look up, for better or worse. Anyways, so I think it's a saying in Japan. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Sorry about this. Okay, so let's see. It's music lyrics that are pulling up, so I'm not going to really waste my time with that. If I recall, the saying is in Japanese, and I can't speak Japanese to save my life, but loosely translated, it is there's two men in every man's life: his father and his mentor. And the problem with modern society is most men don't have either of those. And what I mean by the mentor in this case is more the master. When you learn a craft or a skill, you're paired up with an older man who knows that skill like the back of his hand, and he teaches it to you. You live in his house. You basically, he becomes a second father to you. And I mean, sometimes the master and the father can be the same man. There's nothing wrong with that. But the point is there's supposed to be a man that you look up to, and unfortunately, well, a lot of us don't have that. I'll give a quick anecdote. There we go. Quick story. When I was living in Northern California, my neighbor, very interesting woman, she had a son. And the reason why she had the child, and I will admit that the father should not have had the child. And the father was an alcoholic and an individual that really should not. He just was not able to function in society. Anyways, point is I tried my hardest to be a mentor to this boy, not because how do I want to say this? I'm not blaming the mother. She did the best she could, but it's obvious from just by looking at him and watching the family and all that stuff. He was very isolated. And in the couple of years that this family they lived next to me, I watched. He's an older kid. I think I met him when he was 16 years old, and then he became 18 when I eventually moved. I feel bad for the kid because he started vaping. He wasn't doing anything around the house. He was so ingrained in video games in his car, and he was so crippled from not being allowed to be his own man that just the slightest provocation made him explode in anger. And he was isolated. People were taking advantage of him because he didn't have a spine. He didn't have friends. It was a very, very sad situation. And like I said, I tried to reach out to him, but according to his mother, he would always say, well, Jack never wants to hang out with me. He's an older guy. He's got his own life and all that stuff. And I was like, all I do is work and sleep. Come on. The point is men, well, I shouldn't say men, boys are set up in a way to fail from a very early age, and it's getting worse. By the time, assuming the family splits up, of course, but by the time a male enters that child's life as a role model, they're already in high school in a lot of cases. And in certain limited cases, it may be middle school, but even then, I don't know. I think that by then it's already too late. I think that males should be involved from the very start, and I already know there's a couple reasons why there are no males. One is we have a very disgusting stereotype put up against us, which is men are deviants. They're going to assault, intimately assault every child they come across. And yes, it does happen, but I don't know if anybody else has noticed it, but I have noticed it. It seems like when I look at the news lately, it's more women than men that are in a teaching role who is having relationships with students. And maybe it's the stigma for reporting it is no longer there because, like, let's be honest, when an older man and a younger girl have relations, the instant reaction is that guy has to go to jail. The inverse of that is an older woman with a younger boy, especially if she's, a prettier woman. The instant reaction is, well, that kid is lucky. He got an experience that I wish I had in school. And I think, yeah, there is a fantasy there that a lot of men probably have. I myself have not had that, so I can't relate there. But whether you agree with it or not, it still is a crime. An older individual, especially an individual in a position of power, having relations like that with a student is not good. Anyways, I don't mean to make this more about crime and true crime stuff, but my point is because of those stereotypes, men aren't in those roles, and the problem is as we've seen in things like the Great Sneeze. I don't mean to make light of what happened in 2020, but I've noticed that a lot of people just don't say that word, so I'm going to avoid saying the C word because I don't want to lose this YouTube channel. I think we can do some real good here. And that's kind of why I don't really swear or say anything provocative that has not been said worse on YouTube before. Simply because, again, I do think that Sentinel Circle can do some serious good. We just got to keep working at it. And we have done some good. I think we've reached out to some people. Things have been slowing down. Anyways, that's a topic for another. So where was I? The Great Sneeze. Anyways, so I think when the Great Sneeze of 2020 happened, it exposed a lot of the teachers for what they really are. And I find it funny how a lot of parents did not know that these things were being taught in school, because I saw it coming from a mile away. When I was in school, there were hints of it in the things like the intimacy education classes, where they talked about things like homosexuality and transgenderism and such like that, but it wasn't as graphic as it is today. And I think by putting everybody at home and the parents physically seen with their own two eyes what was happening in the classroom. I think that woke up a lot of people to how bad it was. And then this video has been recorded after excuse me, oh Lord, after the review I gave of adolescence. And in episode 2 of Adolescence, there was that one teacher that had the pride flag lanyard, and he had like a man bun in the back and all that stuff. And I would argue that, how do I want to say this? Look at what's out there with these kids. The problem is they're sponges. They're going to absorb whatever they come into contact. And look at what's out there. You have OF for the girls, and the women who are on OF, which that's a shame, because OnlyFans was never meant to do that. It just kind of got co-opted into it. It's the same thing with Uber. Uber was only meant to, if you're going that way anyways, just go pick someone up, and I guess it's just the law of unintended consequences. And then look at what's out there for young boys. Again, looking back at Adolescence, the one police officer was saying it's that Andrew Tate stuff. Okay, so if that's out there, what are you doing to combat that? You're making shows like Adolescence. That's really what the problem is. I digress. The point that I'm actually trying to make here is, if good, moral, decent things are not in your face all the time, it's going to get taken up by something else. And obviously, the quick and immediate fix is to get rid of the screens. Take the iPad away from the iPad kids. But I don't know about any of you. I've seen this on my own. The parents that do that, the excuse that I've heard multiple times is, well, they need a break. And I get that. They need a break. I get that. And technology is going to fill that void. It used to be TV and toys before that. Now it's just an iPad, and it's probably the easiest and cheapest method, as long as the in-app purchases are disabled. I don't know if anybody here has remembered the whole when apps first came out and the little children were buying stuff, and the credit card bill was like $80,000 or something like that. I still get a kick out of that. It's just, I know that that's the quick and immediate fix, and I'm not a parent. I can't judge people for what they do when I'm not in that position. I simply can't, because the truth is I can sit there and say, well, I would never do that as a parent. Well, the problem is I don't know what I would do as a parent, because I'm not a parent. Everyone, there's that saying, you even the best laid plans go out the window in enemy contact, which basically says that you can have like the best plans in the world, but the moment the rubber meets the road, anything happens. You can't account for every last variable. And we have that in science too. It's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You just can't account for every little thing. So, like I said, I can't judge parents for putting an iPad in front of their kids. But what I will say is, there's unintended consequences there too, and we're starting to see those unintended consequences. And that's kind of the problem, is I don't see I don't see parents spend time with their children. And when I go online, I mean, it's been going like this for years. It was first, the millennials are worthless, and then Gen Z is completely worthless, and no one would hire Gen Z. Now they're talking about the same thing about Gen Alpha. They'll never hire Gen Alpha. And my counter to that is, well, you're going to have to at some point. Boomers are retiring and dying off. Take 3. The issue that I'm seeing is you have stories from when I was younger, and I'm a millennial, where millennials were worthless and nobody would hire millennials. The same thing was said about Gen Z. No one's going to hire Gen Z, and then no one's going to hire Gen Alpha. The problem is you're going to have to hire these people regardless. Okay, the boomers are disappearing, retiring. They're end of life. That's the best way of putting it. Gen X is soon going to be in the same position where they're already gray as is, and they're going to start transitioning into that retirement phase. And I know everyone says, well, retirement's done, retirement. Well, there's going to get to a point where they physically can't do it. And that's really what retirement is when you physically cannot work anymore. And the next problem is the standards are so low that anybody who can show up on time and sober is considered worth their weight in gold. In most cases. But nobody ever talks about mentorship. And maybe the younger don't want it, I don't know. But I think that even if they claim they don't want it, in reality, they still take from it. And again, as older individuals, myself included, we are examples whether we like it or not. We are role models, whether we like it or not. Because they look upon us, and when we're out there screaming and crying and throwing things and acting a fool, they take from that. But if we sit there stoic and respectful and show manners, etiquette, they do take from that too. And I know that there are people who do appreciate that as well. God, sorry, my nose is really itchy today. So, if you're an older guy, don't be afraid to reach out to younger guys, especially in our situation, or within Sentinel Circle, I should say. That's kind of the whole point is... Sentinel Circle is supposed to be this place where we all can get together, exchange ideas in respectful ways. But don't be afraid to open up your ears and listen, especially if you're an older guy. The same thing with the younger guys too. I will say that I've learned things from young people as well. I'm still learning something every single day, and I've always been taught that you should learn something every single day. Otherwise, what's the point? You'll never know everything in this world. So, I'm going to give my final thoughts here. And I'm probably going to create a little graphic that pops up. It says final thoughts. It might be, under here or above here, somewhere. I do like that whole final thoughts thing. My whole point in this is, I noticed that I'm not saying we need to go back to the old ways. There's a reason why we're still not in togas or wearing suits. You know, you simply just can't go back, whether you want to or not. Time is linear. It's going forward all the time. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut was trying to describe time to these aliens in his book, and he said that it's like having a tube right in front of you, and that's all you can see, and you're on a roller coaster, and you're going forward, and that was how time was, and I agree with him. There's no going back. I long for the times where I would go with my grandmother and get pizza and a game. We didn't have Blockbuster in my town, but it was another video rental store, and then my stepmom worked in a grocery store that had video rental. They since got rid of that in a bankruptcy, but I long for those days where, you know, you could go get a game for $5 and game and a pizza, and that was your night. The simple truth is I don't live in those times anymore, and as much as I'd like for them to come back, they won't. And I do look around now, and I gotta say, now that I've stopped checking out, because that's what I did before my beast of a PC died, was I'd come home and check out and veg out to video games and my hard drive full of movies, and I stopped doing that. And I look around now and I think to myself, what happened? And I realized what happened was I was checked out. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking the same thing, as they go home and they veg out. That's it. That's their day. I don't want to speculate on if that's like planned, like they make life so aggravating that everyone just says forget it and throws up their hands and goes home and veges out in front of a screen, so that way they can do whatever it is they want to do, whoever they are. And I've heard that conspiracy before, but this is not a place for conspiracy. This is more, you know, when was the last time any of you can honestly say, and I'm sure there are people out there that can honestly say this, that you took an interest in a young person's life? You know, be a niece, nephew, son, daughter. You know, if you do have a child, when was the last time you did something with them? You know, did you take them fishing, hunting? Did you teach them a skill? Did you build something with them? And if you do, that's great. You know, I applaud that, you know, but for the rest of us, and I know volunteering's hard. You don't have the time. You don't have the money. We're barely scraping by as is, but I just think that it's at a significant detriment to the next generation. And maybe that's why we're not having children, is because we're so up our own rears. You know, we're broke and we're constantly working to be broke, or I don't know. There's many reasons, and I'm not an individual who studies this day in and day out. I just make observations, and I will say that there's no right or wrong answer. And I think that that's kind of the biggest problem with us, is we're trying to find a right answer as to why, rather than spending that energy on trying to fix it, as messy as it may be. I don't know. Anyways, I've gone on for long enough. I do apologize for the cuts that you're gonna experience, because I said naughty words and I'm trying not to. The last thing I want to part out to you is just, even if you aren't directly interacting, with someone who's younger. Just being a moral person is enough. You know, don't snap at the waiter because they got your order wrong, because the child that's next to you or next to your table is watching you. And if they see you explode at the waiter, that might be something that they learn, a learned behavior. If you're someone who works outside, wear ear protection and eye protection, because yes, it may be inconvenient, but children are also watching you. They see you work like that, and we want to teach them to be safe around dangerous equipment and dangerous work. Speaking calmly and collectedly, and waiting for your turn to speak. All skills that, if we practice on a daily basis, who knows, maybe someone picks up on it. I don't remember, I shouldn't say I don't remember. I don't know if any of you probably remember, but a couple of years ago, there's this video. And maybe I'll find it and put it in the back end of this video. It's this older gentleman and this young boy. This young boy is about ready to go on a job interview, and the old man sees that he's trying to put on a tie. He doesn't know how to, so rather than say, "Oh, millennials, they don't know what they're doing," or what, he took the time to teach the kid how to tie a tie, and that is the kind of lesson that kid will remember for the rest of his life. You know, it's easy to mock. It's hard to either lead by example or to teach. And the problem is a lot of us, and I'm not blaming anybody, I'm not pointing the finger, I've made that mistake too. A lot of us have taken the easy way out. And we need to acknowledge that we've been taking the easy way out for quite some time, and we need to maybe think about doing something different. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, I'm glad. If you enjoyed any of my videos, thank you. Just please, I've noticed in the stats that people are watching, but they're not subscribing. And if you don't want to, I completely understand. I get it. You know, maybe I'm not your cup of tea, whatever. But if you do find yourself coming back to my videos, please subscribe. It does help me. And I want to help you. The only way that I can help you is by you helping me. I'm not saying that because I want this channel to grow big. I want to be able to reach out to as many people as I can. And the only way to do that is to get a bigger channel going, a bigger presence on YouTube, so that way I do start popping up at the top of the feeds. When I go to search for my own channel, I'm not even on the first page right now. So we got a lot of work to go through, but we'll get there. It's just going to take time, and I'm in this for the long haul. I hope you are too. If you have anything you wanted to share or discuss or anything, I'm always open. You can leave a comment below. You can send me an email. I always leave the email in the video description. You can always contact me with stories, whatever. I'm perfectly okay. If you want to remain anonymous, email's the best way, for reasons. If you feel my videos have helped you or could help someone else, please share them. You know, I'm always receptive to new ideas, receptive to new people, new ways of life, everything. Okay, that's my spiel. Again, my name's Jack, and this is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here. Have a good day. Bye.